everybody, it's me, Jennifer from Little Metal Foxes, and I'm here with
Julia from Little Metal Foxes.
And we're in my studio today.
I know. I'm visiting her.
I have my apron. Ta-da! Right there. The Little Metal Foxes apron. There it is. And my little peppy button. Hello there. Hi, Jason.
My hair.
Hi, Chris. Hi there. So, yeah. So today, hello, we're going to be talking about some link forming pliers. And, hi there. Hey there. So I've got link forming pliers.
New tools.
Hi there.
New tools.
Dun, 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 dun. So we've got some cool things to talk about. I work with these at work a lot, and they are amazing.
She brought them over to my house and was showing them off, and I'm like, oh, I need to pay
we need to talk about these. So especially with the Chain Queen here.
I know. Why do I not have these already? What's wrong with me?
I don't know. So these things are fantastic. So they are link forming pliers. They're great if you've got, especially if you're doing like loop and loop.
Mm-hmm.
So they're really good for loop and loop chains, and not just for loop and loop chains, but for stretching things. We also use them for making earrings and stretching loops that have been soldered together and stretching them out to create ovals and things like that. So these guys are great. And the cool thing is these little pegs that are in here, right there, those guys come out, and it comes with a set of little pegs that you can change the size. So you can create all kinds of little chain and shapes and ovals using these things. And the stop on this is adjustable as well. So
this is huge. The fact that it has a stop on it, this is actually one of the biggest things about this, because it means you can repeat. You can get them exactly. All the rings you're doing will always be the same size. This is like,
so you can, have that stop, real small, and it also keeps you from overstretching the oval as well and snapping it, which I have done a number of times. So
she's strong. She's the boss.
It's like yoink and boink, they break. So, but you can make it, shorter or longer. So that's really great. So you can change the length of the stretch, and you can change the size of the peg. So one of the things that is an accessory with this that you can get is the plate. And this little plate is awesome because you can put it in and change the shape of what you're stretching. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an oval. It could be a square, it could be a rectangle,
triangle,
it could be, bigger
shape.
ovals. And it also, because it's a bigger plate, allows you to stretch longer things as well. So this thing is extremely adaptable.
It's a jig. It's a jig.
It
and so
really
you can
is.
put all those little pegs in, and you can make, you're not confined to just like convex shapes, that bend out.
That's
you can
true.
have like heart shape or something that's
absolutely.
flower shape or something that has points that point in.
Right.
So that's
this
cool.
one, it has two little thumb screws on the back, and those come undone, and it has a little O-ring that holds it all together. They're on a slide, so you take that little O-ring off. There we go, and unscrew your little screws there on the back, and this little guy comes apart like that, and then everything's magnetized. So it has a little hole on the back, and that fits into there. So you put your little thumb screw in and attach it. There we go.
Side A.
Side A. And so it like swings around loose. And then side B, you slide that part on, like that. And then you put the other thumb screw in and screw it into this side. Get those lined up. I know, it's like, where's the little hole?
I think this needs to rotate around.
Oh, sorry. You are correct. It goes that way. So the holes line up. And, so you screw that one in. And the nice thing is that the little thumb screws, the hex keys that go with them, fit all the parts. So you don't have to have, one for one.
You have one hex key that fits everything, which is, again, also non-trivial.
Now, one of the things that we were looking at, because I bought the pliers separate from the forming plate, and the forming plate comes just as the forming plate. But this little set comes with the pliers. So I just needed like the little forming set and the forming plate. So I didn't need the whole set, and it saved me about, what did we figure yesterday, about 40 bucks?
I think it was about $30.
Yeah, 30 or 40 bucks to buy it separately. But
right. So what you get if you buy like the whole kit and caboodle, in addition to the things that Jennifer just showed you, you would get a pair of Delrin plates, so heavy plastic,
right,
that you can drill your own holes into. So if you wanted to make some very specific shape and you wanted to be able to repeat that, you could drill the holes where you wanted them and put the pegs in. So it would have that, the Delrin. In addition to that, it has like 6 little pegs that go in, the little 1/8 inch pegs. And Jennifer's like, I don't need $10 worth of stainless steel pegs.
Yeah,
I can just use some brass 1/8 inch rod.
Yeah,
and then the Delrin, she's like, I can use jet set. She's like, I have all that stuff.
So you can make all kinds of different configurations and then stretch. So you're soldering like a jump ring together and then putting it on and stretching it to create your shape and your form. So depending on how you're laying your stuff on there and soldering it, you can create all kinds of stuff, or just use that for a jig. So there's all kinds of possibilities for that. This ended up costing about, it was like 94 bucks, I think, with the pliers separate from the jig.
I think the pliers are like 70, and this flat plate jig is 30, I want to say.
Something like
so you're
that,
in the $100 range.
Yeah, it's close. So, but I gotta say, if you're doing, one of the classes I have coming up is the designing for production for the studio. And this is one of those things that's really a great tool for doing production and taking it up to the next level. So if you are doing shaping over and over and over and over again, instead of having to, hand form something repeatedly, this really takes a lot of that work out of it for you. And, you're paying for the convenience. However, on a lot of things, the convenience tool like this pays for itself very quickly.
Right.
So I have to say,
you can charge less for the piece that you're making, and so that makes it more accessible because you have put less time into it.
Yeah.
It also means that everything is the same, right? So the sizes are all the same.
It's consistent.
Yeah, they're consistent, which is not trivial.
It makes it makes a big difference when you're really trying to make some consistent work. And when you have people that are like, how come my earrings aren't the same shape and size? When you have something like this, you can, they will be the same shape and size. So it makes it more consistent, more predictable, and there's all kinds of different ways that you can use a tool like this. So I have to say, I'm really glad that I got one for my own studio. I love the one that we use at work. It's, not just for, stretching links, simple links. So you really can use it in a lot of complex ways to create a lot of really beautiful, interesting forms. So, and this really, like I said, extends the stroke of what you're doing, so you can do longer ovals or longer links. And sometimes when you're doing things like the loop and loop, that is like the double loop and loop, those links have got to be long.
They've got to be really long.
And
if you're doing a flat weave of some kind, you have some links that are really long and then other ones that are shorter.
Right.
Being able to change the set the setting and change the jig would be nice.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do all of these things, and we have some tools to show you. You can do these things without buying $100 worth of tool. What you invest is more time.
Right.
So,
well, and sometimes a simpler option works great. So, if you're on a budget and right now you can't afford something like that, there are some other options. And, I recently got this because I have it at work and I'm like, it's great. I need to have something like that. But I've got a bunch of other things that I've been using for years, as does Julia. And we were talking about them last night. While we were watching All That Glitters. So,
well, after we were watching All That Glitters, we were paying attention when we were watching All That Glitters.
Yeah, that's true. We were very focused on All That Glitters. We were watching the Locket show, Locket Edition, episode 4.
To watch that.
So, go Hugo. But one of the things that I've used for years is just, like a round nose pair of pliers. And round nose pliers, if you work with them a lot, you end up getting, these little things are so delicate that when you're bending and twisting and shaping stuff, a lot of times those little, oh, hi Kathleen, these little tips have a tendency to get twisted
Right.
or
They'll
a
get a little twinkle
bent.
toes thing going on.
Yeah.
Right.
So what I do with those, once they start to sort of, bend out or,
Once they start to bend, even if you bend them back, they'll bend again, right? It's like they've been. So
no good.
It's no good. So it's
no
like
good.
just don't.
But
Don't frustrate yourself.
Right. Don't throw them away.
Don't
either.
throw them away, but don't
Because-
frustrate yourself by continuing to use them.
Yeah.
Turn them into something else.
Exactly right. So what I do, and you can test them with your saw. Just if your saw will sort of gently cut into them, you can cut them down to a blunter.
Well, you're saying if you test them with your saw,
and if the saw, if they're
tool steel,
if they're stainless steel, it'll just
skitter
across the top.
Right.
It won't cut them at all. It's like glass. But if it's a softer steel, you can actually just cut through them with your
regular
jeweler saw. Yeah.
Right.
And so I'll cut them down, and I just have like a blunter pair of round nose pliers. Right? Those are great, and you can stretch your loops on something like that. The other thing that you can do, and sometimes you have pliers that you're just like, that are cheap old pliers that you're like, I need to change it up.
Or those that are serrated jaws, which you don't want anywhere near anything.
Right. So these have like serrated, a little bit of, they're not really serrated, they're just really old chewed
really
up.
chewed up?
They're just really chewed up.
I thought they were serrated because from the side they were so chewed up.
They're really chewed up. So for these, I just bent the tips out like that.
Nice.
And now I can hook a jump ring over that has been soldered and stretch it. And it won't like slip right off the top of the jump ring.
Right.
Or the jump ring won't slip right off the top of the pliers. And they don't have to be round nose pliers. These are just chain nose that are just really beat up. The other thing that you can do, and Julia can show you too, because she's got like the professional version of this.
Well, the commercial version.
Right.
This is a professional version because a professional person is using it.
Thank you. So what I did was I used the saw and just marked all the way around the top, and then just ground it down and filed it down to create a really nice little bright notch. So you can do different steps on that to create different size jump rings for your chain, but basically you just slide it down, and when you open it, it stays in that little notch and doesn't like go shink off the top of your pliers. So a little notch like that works great, and this you can customize to whatever size gauge you're using, right? And that's great because it just catches the ring so it doesn't just slip off and go flying away. So, two great options of pliers that you can change and manipulate, and you could do that with the old round nose pliers as well. And the other pair of forming pliers that I really like for chain and for forming are these guys. These are awesome. So you get 6 different forming sizes, and these are great not only for things like jump rings and chain, but they're also great for like earring forming and just whatever forming you need.
Because each of these, I think what's important to comment about this is that each of these little sections here are straight, right? So this is a cylinder as opposed to being tapered. Right. So it means whatever you're twisting around it, it's not going to have any little angles or weird things, which is...
Yeah, it's not going to be tapered.
It's not going to be tapered.
And they're going to be consistent. Again, it's about consistency, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So Julia brought some of her pliers. Tell us about yours.
Yes.
Because she does a lot of chain, people.
I do. And like Jennifer, when I'm doing something a lot, I want to make it as easy on myself as I can, both in terms of the amount of physical effort that it takes and the amount of emotional effort that it takes. So one of the downsides... You don't want to
fight with it. It's no fun.
You don't want to fight with it. Frustration is going to make you leave your bench, and so you want to reduce the friction to the completion of the object. Yeah. So with your standard sort of round nose pliers, the problem with these is that in order to stretch a ring, what you have to do is you have to open it the wrong way, right? Like you're not crushing it closed. You have to stick your finger in here and you have to pull it open this way, which is not the way it's really designed.
And you've got a spring that's trying to...
And you've got a spring that's working against you.
Right.
So the solution to that problem is to have a pair of pliers where when you squeeze the bottom part, the top part opens. So these pliers are commercial bow opening pliers, B-O-W opening. And they have a spring here, and then they have these little notches here. So they're very much like Jennifer created her own version of these here. The advantage of these is that when you squeeze them, they open. The disadvantage of these, as Jennifer was commenting, is that this spring is really hard. It's serious. So if you were using these a lot, your hand would get tired.
Yeah.
Honestly, I have had these for years and I never use them because these notches sort of are not quite the right size for the things I'm doing.
And that spring is so strong. That thing bit me twice just playing with it yesterday.
Poor baby. Yeah. The current ones that Rio has have leaf springs like this. Yeah. So they would not be as robust as this spring. So I think if you were
seriously, those you can work out your arms
these are
on
like
those.
my husband has some of those. Yeah,
yeah, those
my
are
husband
great.
has some of those little things. He sits at his desk and squeezes them. This is what that would be good for. So
when it's arm day.
When it's arm day. The other option are these. These are wonderful. These are vintage Waldez True Arc pliers. A TRUARC, and this is the number 2, and then this is the number 4. These are circlip pliers, or snap ring pliers, or retaining ring pliers. These are all names for the same thing, which is
there's like a little steel ring at the hardware store, and it's got
two little eyes.
It's got like two little eyes, and you want to either open it or close it.
Right.
And so
that's what these pliers are for. So
right.
The snap ring, retaining ring, circlips are for holding things in place in engines and motors. And sometimes you have to get them out, right? They're like cotter pins. You have to get them out. This tool is designed to do that. But this tool also works super well for stretching lengths for things like foxtail chain or other kinds of loop and loop chain.
Right.
The reason I love them so much, you can get them on eBay. They run in $15 to $30. Two things. They have a spring.
A light spring.
A light spring. And if they don't have a spring, you can actually buy a piece of music wire and you can replace this. I've done that with a number of them. They have a spring, and then they have this stop. So the stop will screw in and out, and then you can set it so that as you open these, they only open to a very specific width. Right?
And again, that's so that you don't overstretch.
So you don't overstretch, and so that especially if you're doing a woven chain,
they've got to be exactly the same
you
size.
want them repeating always the same, right? So these are fabulous for that. The tips are quite fine, and they open a different width, right? So I think the widest that this one opens is obviously smaller than the widest that this one opens.
And these are vintage ones?
These are vintage ones. You can I get them on eBay. Yes. I was selling them. I had a bunch, and because I had a bunch so that I could teach classes with these, and I sold all the ones that I had that were kind of extras. I think I have maybe 3 more pairs of the number 4s, which are the larger ones.
I think Lion Punch Forge also, Chris, I know you're out there.
Mentioned them.
Chris mentioned that he might have some too. So
yeah.
you might. He is a collector of things.
Yeah, they're great. But so
Lion Punch Forge. If we don't have them in stock, check.
So these are great if you want the vintage version. However, there is a commercial modern version of these that you can also buy that runs roughly the same cost. I think these are around $30. I got these from Crawford Tool. I think it's crawfordtool.com. But if you look them up online, the brand is Imperial, and the stock number is IR, which I think is like Imperial retaining, and then -380S. S is in Sam. So IR380S, this is going to be backwards, so you guys won't be able to see it. But they are essentially the same as the vintage ones. They even open the same width as the number 4.
Yeah.
They also have the stop.
The ever-essential stop.
The ever-essential stop. So many retaining ring pliers, commercial retaining ring pliers, do not have the stop. So the stop is important, and they do have quite fine, hold these up, they have very fine tips, but
Yeah.
you could also use the outside edges here. So, if you wanted to, if you kind of wanted to combine this and this, you could grind, little notches on the outside of this.
True.
Too. So, there are
Customize
choices.
that tool.
You could customize the tool.
Absolutely.
But this is the closest approximation to the vintage ones that I have found.
Right.
And these work beautifully, and the spring in these is not very strong.
So how much?
So it's
if
much
you were looking
more
at
gentle.
if you're looking for the vintage ones on eBay, I know that Chris said he has a bunch of these as well at Lion Punch Forge, and you usually will buy them when you see them. They usually have them like in a bunch,
Sometimes, yeah, that's the other problem,
A
is
lot.
that sometimes they'll be in a lot with like other tools, and they oftentimes, the tips of the vintage ones, like look at the photos on eBay, because the tips of the vintage ones, I'm going to hold this up so you can see, you see how these are kind of fat and they sort of tend to bend bend out a little bit. Though this is in really good, pristine shape. Oftentimes the tips will have either been ground away or they'll just have been worn away, and so they'll be either very thin or they'll be, kind of wonky.
Weird.
They'd still work. Again, you could cut some notches and you could make them work. If somebody gives you a pair, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
it's
and they run, I don't know. If you can get them sometimes for like $10, $15.
Yeah, and
usually they're more.
And Chris at Lion Punch Forge pointed something out too. Sometimes they're to pull things together, and sometimes they're to pull them apart.
Oh yes, you have
so
to
make sure you pay attention to the correct
to the way they're lapping.
Opening. Yeah.
Right. You have to look at the pictures and you have to look and see, does this leg? Yeah, thank you, Chris. Does this leg continue up onto this jaw? So if you want to press them together and have the tips open, this leg and this jaw have to be one piece. Whereas if you look at something like this, which has a lap joint, this leg and this jaw, the opposite jaw, are connected.
Right.
So, yeah, very, very, very important.
Right. Right. So there are so many ways that you can find these tools. eBay, us, Lion Punch Forge will have the circlip.
Circlip. CIRCLIP. Retaining ring. Snap ring.
Yeah.
Circlip pliers. I'm trying to think what other names they have for them.
That's a good search. Do a search for those.
But yeah, again, Imperial.
Brand new.
IR-380S.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't find the vintage one.
And if you want like the little handle on these guys, you can use tool dip. So you can get tool dip from the hardware store, and it's cheap, and you can get it in a bunch of different colors. I like to use the heat shrink tubing that you can get in the electrical section.
Right.
And so for a tool like this that is a little hard, especially if you're using it again for production stuff, it gets a little hard on your hand, and you can use either tool dip or the heat shrink tubing to give yourself a handle, and so they don't slip out of your hand very easily. So, but yeah, it's just a way to sort of customize that tool again. But yeah,
these are very elegant. I have to say that the vintage ones are. I understand the affection that people have for the vintage ones because they're very elegant.
So, but creating your own is a great way to go. So if you've got a cheap old pair of pliers that has a little tip like that,
recycle, repurpose, reuse.
Absolutely. And I really love finding the cheap little hardware store versions of the pliers and
I love these
and customizing them.
They're so cute.
And just like get that little round nose plier on there. But yeah, so these guys, saw them off, clip them down, grind into them, saw into them.
If they're harder steel than regular tool steel, a separating disc will cut them.
Yeah, that's
right.
true.
So if your jeweler saw is sliding off them, I mean, if you've got serrated pliers, for example, on the inside, and you're like, I'm never going to use these for touching my precious metal, it's like, that's fine.
And you shouldn't.
And you shouldn't use the smooth outside.
Right.
But if they're stainless or some hardened steel, then you can use a separating disc to cut them.
Right. So yeah, but there are lots of options out there, and you work with what you've got and customize the things that you can.
Don't let your tools stop you.
No, don't.
Make your tools do the work for you.
That's right. And and when you get to a point where you're like, I really need something that's going to step up my game, I'm going to do some chain, I'm doing some shaping and stretching. There are tools out there that really make that job easier and simpler, and this is a great set. I would recommend buying them separately so that you can save a little bit more money, unless you really need the Delrin thing and you want to customize it. But I mean, you can get Delrin and do stuff like this pretty simply and easily without having to spend an extra $30 on a piece of Delrin. So, and
I think
if
it's $20 for the Delrin, and $10 for the pegs, which you can also make out of 1/8 inch.
You can make your own pegs pretty easily. Just go to the hardware store, get some brass rod, solder it together, make your own. So there's all kinds.
Just cut it
yeah,
off.
that's true. But I mean, you can solder square tubing to it. Make little square shapes on there.
True.
It's true.
Yes. What she's saying is you can make your own pegs.
That's right.
That have different shapes. So if you make pegs that are square,
right,
by putting square tubing around like a round peg,
right, you can put a round peg in a square hole.
You can.
You just have to solder it together.
But yes, if you have square pegs or triangular pegs or some other, then you can get a sharp corner.
Yeah. So you can do all kinds of tools.
Possibilities are
endless. I know. So anyway, you guys, these are great tools, and they do, increase your productivity, increase your, their potential in your studio, and allow you to do all kinds of things. But again, don't let your tools hold you back. If you've got tools you can customize and, make your own, go for it, because there's all kinds of great ways that you can do that in your studio. You can always email us at info@littlemetalfoxes.com if you have any questions. And we'd love to see pictures, tag us if you've got, some link
modified tools.
Modified tools, tag us.
What do you use for sketching links?
Let us know. We'd love to see it. Just tag us at Little Metal Foxes so we can see it, and we'll share it with people too. So, what else is coming up, Julia?
Oh my God! I have to get my phone
I just
out.
listed the production class.
Yes.
It's going to be
take her production
coming
class.
up, and I have had so many people ask me about the production class, and it's coming up just in time for prepping for holiday.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you that are like prepping holiday stuff, and you are like, I need to like figure some stuff out.
Shizzle out, right?
Shizzle out, and really want to be productive this holiday. This is going to be the class for you. So we're going to talk about everything from designing for production, getting your designs out there, and how you can do it in the most effective way, the most productive way. If you need to send stuff out, to job it out for casting, for plating, for laser cutting, for whatever it is, we'll talk about that stuff too. So if you're a small studio and you're making like one thing at a time, there may be ways,
there are better ways
to increase your production. Yes. And I've been doing production casting, and production jewelry for many years, and I can share lots and lots of tips.
If I want to do something better, faster.
Yeah. And keeping your not just doing it faster, and more of them, but keeping your quality level high and keeping them consistent.
Right.
So there's
faster and without sacrificing quality. Right. So that's the tricky bit.
Right.
She's really good at that.
So and it increases your overall productivity, and your overhead goes down because you're increasing your productivity. So it makes your profits go up. So yeah, there's lots of ways that you can do that. And if you're working in series and you need to create some things, that makes it a lot easier. I started out my art career as a printmaker and photographer, and so in printmaking there are a lot of things that you have to do very methodically to get things done. And so a lot of times when I'm doing production stuff, it's very much like doing printmaking runs. It's you're doing certain steps in a certain order to get to a final point, and they should all be consistent.
Right.
And so it's it translates really closely that way. So yeah.
So not a surprise that the printmaker is making production jewelry. Not a surprise that the person who came from a fiber background
is making
chain, right? Is weaving things.
Right.
All of that gets folded in.
Yeah.
So, we never leave any parts of ourselves behind. We just kind of fold them in and, repurpose them. Just like the tools that we repurpose.
It's just the path. It's the journey.
It's the journey.
So what else is coming up?
My Studio Sparks class is starting on Monday. The Studio Sparks is basically studio prompts, so a morning prompt to kind of get you jazzed and working at your bench.
I love a little picture.
The little picture is cute. Helen designed that for us. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, you can see a little fox. Anyway.
Little fox. So the participants in the class will get a prompt every weekday for the first 4 weeks in August. Actually, I'm going to reveal a secret, but I'm probably going to send a few extra ones, so you'll probably get a prompt every weekday of August, right?
It's sort of a writer's trick too.
Yeah, it's like morning pages or warm up, right? Stretches. You're going to go in your studio and you're not going to start making the thing right away. You're going to kind of warm up a little bit and do a little something that sort of warms up your brain as well as warming up your
and just gets
body.
you to the bench.
And gets you to the bench.
So even if you don't do those, even if you don't do that, if it just gets you to the bench.
Even if you don't do the prompt, that's great. If it got you to the bench, then it did its job.
Yeah.
So the prompts you'll get every weekday for August, and then on Wednesdays and Fridays every week in August, we'll have little live Zoom check-ins to sort of see how people, what they made with their, what they did. And we're not talking about you making a thing, but just like, hey, how did you interpret the prompt? Because I interpret the prompt one way, and I really am looking forward to seeing how all of the students interpret it because it's like
Yeah.
everybody has a
there was
different-
one that she was telling me, and I was like, oh, I thought that was completely different. So
Right.
it's just, it's sort of like a line of direction that sort of gets you moving.
Right.
And the how you interpret it and how you would go about doing it is kind of up to you. Which
right,
is,
right.
Makes it,
There are no rules in
really
that
interesting.
sense. And so I'm super looking forward to seeing how different people,
Yeah.
what comes out, because
Yeah.
everybody will do something different. So then if you find something that you're loving and you want to do more of it, then we'll talk about like, ooh, how could you adjust this and, move forward and do more cool stuff with it. If you got stuck on something and you're like, I couldn't
Yeah.
quite get it to do X or Y, we'll talk about that too in
Yeah.
our live check-ins.
So I like the live check-in idea because it's kind of like having an accountability buddy.
Exactly.
You know?
That's exactly what it's there for.
And
right?
so you've got-
somebody is watching.
The accountability buddy.
Right.
And for those of you who don't have an accountability buddy, I will tell you, it really works to have somebody that you're just checking in
Right.
with from
No
time to
judgment.
time. That you're just like, so how are you're going to be working on something. What are you working on?
Exactly.
Great. I'll see you on Wednesday, and we'll check in and see how you're doing. And so it's sort of just by saying it out loud to somebody and knowing that you're going to be like working on it keeps you focused on that task.
Right.
And
You think about things
So-
differently when you're going to be sharing the information.
Yeah.
So I learn much better, at least this is for me, I learn much better when I'm thinking about how I would explain it to someone else. The best way to learn something is to teach it.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is why I actually love teaching, because I learn so much from my students
Absolutely.
and from the process. So I developed the Studio Sparks for myself because I wanted to spend more time at my bench and I wanted to do more of this kind of creative play, kind of, daydreaming with tools in my hand kind of thing. And I'm hoping there's several people who've already signed up, which is great.
and she wants to take others on the journey with
and
her.
I want to take others on the journey with me. And we're going to run it regardless of how many people are in the class. So I think I've got 2 or 3 already,
Yeah.
which will be a very nice little
Yeah.
group.
But here's
come
the
and join
thing.
us.
It's really
gonna be a
great
lot of
because
fun.
the thing I like too on Fridays is that you're doing sort of a design challenge.
Right.
Not
The
just
Friday
like
prompt will be a little more involved. It has
like
the potential to be a little more involved, simply because we wanted to give you something to kind of mull over on the weekends.
Yeah.
So you might build
They're
a
good
model
ones.
in
Yeah.
Manila folder and then build it actually
Yeah.
in Sheets
So,
or something.
but it's really good just to do those kinds of exercises for yourself and to get warmed up. And even if it leads you in a direction that you're kind of like, oh my God, you see something in a different way, and suddenly you're like taken down that path. It's like, I did that second Studio Spark, and I'm doing a whole production line now because of it.
Right,
It's like,
exactly.
that
And then
happens.
Jennifer
It
can help
happens.
you,
Yeah.
even streamline that more.
Yeah.
Um,
But we've also got the stone setting series
Yes,
is coming up.
Jennifer's amazing. Her stone setting classes. I've taken her stone setting class. One of the reasons that we're friends is that I know how good of a teacher she is because I've been her student. But her stone setting class is wonderful. The live version is a bunch of different stone setting. With Little Metal Foxes, we broke it all up so it's sort of a la carte. So you can take what sounds tasty to
So,
you.
and if you can't be there every Wednesday, you can be there for the Wednesdays that you want.
The ones you want. And we have a video recording, so even if you
Right.
physically can't be there live, boo-hoo, you won't be able to ask questions, but you can watch the video recording later, so you don't have to miss out on
Right,
the
and you've
class.
got 30 days to do that.
Right.
So you can sort of see that. One of the things we're going to be doing for the Bezel Made Perfect class,
Ah, yes.
thank you Lion Punch Forge very much,
Chris, we love like Chris.
is that we've got the Tiny Space burnisher and
So beautiful.
the Purple Heart Punch. So we're going to be giving those away. Whoops. Now I broke it. Never mind. We're going to be giving this little set
is
away.
really beautiful.
Isn't it beautiful?
I
Yeah.
know.
We all got to test the prototype, and that's what this is. So,
Sorry.
but yeah, check it. It's got like, lovely little
Vintage
burnisher.
door, a vintage cabinet knob,
Yeah.
I believe, and then,
So,
a
yeah.
modern tool.
So we're going to be giving this away in the Bezel Made Perfect class. So if you're signed up for
In
that,
the class. So
Yeah.
this is different. This is a different giveaway.
right? So if you're signed up for the Bezel Made Perfect class, you're entered in the drawing for the set.
Right.
So so there's that. And I got to tell you, the class is less expensive than the set. So So you may want to sign up for the class just to get entered. But it's a great little tool. The Purple Heart Punch is awesome, and I love it. And I think Chris is going to be there, and we've got Jan Smith has got her enameling class coming up starting on August 7th.
Right, so that's
she's brilliant.
Right.
She's brilliant.
She's brilliant.
You need to sign up for enameling.
If you
know who I'm talking to. You out there. Sign up for enameling.
People.
Yep.
If you have done any enameling and you want to do more enameling, you should take this class.
Yeah.
Because she will answer all your questions. She will help you get an inexpensive and really effective kiln.
Yeah.
You know, she knows all the tricks. Don't be daunted by the tool list and supply list is quite long, because you do kind of need quite a bit of stuff. If you don't have all of those things, don't worry.
You can build as you go.
You can build as you go, and the class is 2 consecutive weekends, so it's Saturday and Sunday, August 7th and 8th, and then August 14th and 15th. And so you have time to ask questions and then acquire things.
And make things and along the way.
Plus you have a month.
And do some drawing, do some designing. Jan is amazing at working with you on designs and inspiration as well, which is one of the things she's going to talk about. But her mark making skills and the way that she does that with enamels is brilliant. And check out Jan Smith artist work.
JanSmith.ca.
And I'll add her tag to this post so you can see it later. But using stencils and using mark making and teaching that it's an intro to enamels. But some of the stuff that she's teaching can be taken and used in very advanced ways.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
so if you've already had some enameling, she's really a good person to talk to. Yeah.
She will level up your game in one class.
Oh yeah. So both of us sat in on her the studio setup for enamels, and she
learned so much.
Oh my God! I've done more torch fire enamels. I've done some kiln enamels, but I just just different stuff. She is just a wealth of information. So yes, I love her.
Yes. And she's really organized, and she's a lovely person as well as being a good teacher, and then an amazing artist, and she knows all the other enamelists in the world too.
Yeah.
So it's like she can talk to you, she can tell you what Sarah Perkins does and what
Harlan Butt
does, and what Linda Darty does. It's like, Linda Darty does it like this, and so that's why she uses these enamels, because she's doing this particular technique. So she will demystify that. Like if you have a particular person's work that you really love,
and
she
questions
can help.
about what kinds of enamels work for what, and what kind of pencils work for what. She's really good and smart. So, and she is one of the reasons that we are international.
I know, because she's up on Salt Spring Island.
She's in Canada.
She's trapped in Canada.
She's a Canada person.
She is.
So we have lots of classes. So check out the website at littlemetalboxes.com, and again, leave us your ideas for your modified tools and how you are forming links. We'd love to see that. And sign up for the Bezels Made Perfect class if you want to get entered into the next contest. And congratulations to Stars at Bove, who was our winner for the Little Metal Boxes class with the Lion Punch Forge,
which is coming up this weekend.
It's coming up this weekend.
I think you still have
there's like two seats left.
There are 2 seats left.
Yeah, and we just added a couple of seats so that we have enough room for everybody. And again, if you can't make a class, you always have the video that you can go back to. So, or if something happens, you've got a video that you can watch. So,
and
easy access.
And you can always email us and ask questions.
Absolutely.
We're very good about answering those.
Yeah. So anyway,
very good talk.
There's Tooltip Tuesday for you. Yay! So we hope you guys have a great week, and get out there and check out some old tools and some new to make them new again, and recycle some things and find ways that you can sort of stretch and modify your tools. So have a great week. We'll be back next week for Tooltip Tuesday, and thanks a lot. We'll see you guys later.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.